constitutional for a president to use executive orders to modify decisions of the Congress, and when is it?
That's a terrific question. As the question is framed, the answer is no. Executive orders have a constitutional role. And the constitutional role is under the Constitution. You get Article 1, Article 2. Article 1 sets up the powers of Congress. Article 2, the powers of the executive. Article 3, the powers of the judiciary. In Article 2, the president is the chief executive. He's the commander-in-chief, and he is given a responsibility in the Constitution to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. The president has no authority to change the law. Once a law has passed, has gone through Congress, has been signed into law by the president, once it's the law, the president has zero authority to change what the law is. What executive orders legitimately can do is they can govern how the executive conducts itself. Because under Article 2, ultimately all executive power is vested in the President of the United States. So he can, for example, quite legitimately sign an executive order directing how employees at the Department of Agriculture will administer a program. Because he's charged with administering the program, and so the executive order is a vehicle to frame how the executive will execute the law. I have been a very vocal critic of President Obama on many fronts, but none more so than the persistent pattern of trying to use executive authority not to direct how the executive carries out its law, but to try to change the law. And that is contrary to our entire constitutional system, because if the president picks and chooses which laws to follow, it means you're no longer a nation of laws. I mean, when our friends crafted the Constitution, there were two revolutions that occurred at the birth of this country. One was a bloody revolution with guns and bayonets. But the second was a revolution of ideas. And in many ways, the revolution of ideas was a lot bigger deal than the fact that some colonists beat the mightiest army in the world at the time in the British Empire. The revolution of ideas, and there were two that were fundamental. One is, for millennia, people had been told that rights come from the monarch, that we are ruled by kings and queens, and that any rights that are given by grace of the monarch, like crumbs off the table of the bread, but able to be taken back at any point. And the framers of our Constitution began with a very different proposition, which is that rights are given to each human being by Almighty God, not by any government ruler. It says, the Declaration says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed, not by a king, not by a queen, and not by the president, but endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That proposition was a radical proposition, that God personally gave to each and every one of us fundamental human rights as a child of the Almighty. And secondly, the framers inverted the concept of sovereignty. Sovereignty had always flowed down from the monarch, from the ruler. Power emanates from the top. The framers turned that upside down. They said power rests with the people. We the people hold sovereignty. And so the Constitution was we the people, the sovereign entity, creating a government, but only lending sovereignty to carry out the essential functions of the government. Thomas Jefferson referred to the Constitution as chains to bind the mischief of government. And so central to that idea is the idea of rule of law. If you have a king and queen, he or she can do whatever they want. If you have a president bound by a constitution, bound by rule of law, the idea is no one is above the law, especially not the president. Of everyone, the person who most has to be bound by the law is the president. And that's why I think it's so dangerous that this president is purporting over and over again to have the power to just change laws. Because I think that fundamentally threatens the liberty of everyone.